few months ago, Tally and I made a spontaneous decision to just say, screw it. Let's buy SummerSlam tickets and figure out the rest later. That's exactly what we did. We've never gone out of town for a big PLE event. We've gone out of town for single shows, which is much easier because a lot less people are congregating and coming from long distance for something like a Raw or a SmackDown or a house show. But this was going to be the first time we had ever taken a shot like that and just dove into a new big city for 3 or 4 days and just figure it out. A year prior, we had gone to the Detroit SummerSlam because that's where we're from. We're from the Detroit area in Michigan. So that was a lot easier because we got the home field advantage. We know where to go, the places to park. We know the ins and outs of the city. So that was significantly easier. When we booked the hotel, we even decided, hey, let's just add one extra day. Let's get there 1 day earlier and just enjoy the time in the Cleveland, Ohio area, and just, maybe there's stuff going on for SummerSlam leading up to the day of. And boy, am I glad we did that, because as we got to the point where we were about to leave to go to Cleveland and check into the hotel, only days before we found out that Bayley and Drew McIntyre were going to have a meet and greet on the first day that we'd be there for the full day. So if we would have only gone there for the 2 days, Friday and Saturday, for SummerSlam, we wouldn't have had the opportunity to do that. So we make the trip down there on Thursday, and the weather is hot. And I'm sure there's plenty of you who will say, oh, that's not that hot. It was about 88, 89, a little bit touching on 90 degrees. The feels like was in the mid 90s, and there wasn't a cloud in the sky. So with me and Talia both being kind of fair skinned, it was kind of rough first getting there. But Max enjoyed the drive. He enjoyed many different sleeping positions. So the 4+ hour drive that it took to get there, I think it was more like 3 to 4 hours that it took to get there, was a breeze for him, and we enjoyed the trip down there. First thing I noticed when we check in the hotel is we're actually directly across from a NASA research center, which I really didn't think much of it, but I think that's also attached to like an airport. It was pretty cool. The room itself was pretty unique. It was a little bit like it looked almost like it was styled like maybe a 70s or 80s. There was one of those really old phones from, if you remember growing up, it had like the full dial turn and all that. And the coolest part was literally from our bed, you could look out the window and just perfectly see the runway that was attached to like this airport, NASA research, whatever. And so from right across the street, we could see planes landing and taking off all throughout the day. And it wasn't even that loud. I really thought that would be annoying, but we didn't even really notice it. But we knew we had a really early morning the next day because the meet and greet for Drew McIntyre and Bayley officially started at noon the next day. So we at this point have some experience going to these meet and greets, and we know that people are going to get there early, and it is better to get there way early than getting there right before it starts. If you're unfamiliar with going to these meet and greets, the strategy that I prefer and that has worked really well for us is if you already know you're going to end up waiting a long time, it's better to get there early and wait a long time for it to start, and then when it starts you get to leave shortly after. That's better than getting there right before it starts and waiting a long time for the line to move and then potentially missing out because they're usually only there for a couple of hours before they have to cut it off. So we got to sleep early, and the alarm went off at 6 in the morning, and we headed over to the nearby Wingstop. That's right, the meet and greet was being hosted by Wingstop, just at a Wingstop store. And when we got there around 7 in the morning, there were a few other cars there, and there were some people just kind of hanging out by their cars. I was a little confused why nobody was lined up at the door yet, and that confusion went away pretty quickly when I saw this sign. This was new to me because, again, I've only been doing this for a little over a year, but the one that we went to the year before was at a Cricket Wireless, and there was nothing that said that you couldn't line up early, which was strange because we're there a few hours before, and I understand they don't want people blocking other stores, but there's definitely a way to do it because I've seen it done where you can do it and it's not blocking these other stores. It's also worth mentioning that most of these other stores weren't even going to be open for hours, so that we weren't actually going to be blocking anything if we had lined up early. This created a bit of an issue because while it was fine early on because there was only maybe 6 to 10 of us that were there that early, it didn't take long for me to wonder what's going to happen as it becomes 10 o'clock or 9 o'clock even. When more people start to get there, you're just going to have a crowd of people standing by their cars in the parking lot. What happens at 11? Does everyone just rush to the door, or Is everyone just going to try to get in line? What about the people that had been there for 3 or 4 hours? There was a guy that camped out and was there from the night before. He was there at 8 p.m. the night before, sleeping in his car, trying to be the first one. So it'd be a little weird if somebody showed up right at 11 a.m. when the sign suggests we should start lining up, and they would be in front of him. While we were waiting, there was a ton of really cool people that we met, and I don't remember all of their names, but if any of those people happen to come across this video, it was a pleasure hanging out with you in line and just getting to talk about wrestling for 3-4 hours, whatever it was, before the line actually started going and we started actually doing the meet and greet. If there's one thing that I look forward to whenever we do these events and these meet and greets, it is meeting all of these people that you do meet when you go to these events and you're just waiting in line together, because you already have something super in common. You most likely both love wrestling and love the wrestler you're trying to meet that day. Which, by the way, I do have another video coming out. I don't know which order these two videos are going to come out, this video or the question video, but you guys did submit questions about the trip, and I may accidentally answer some of those in this video. I don't know which one of those videos is going to go up first, but make sure you subscribe, because there is going to be a question and answer video of questions that you guys have already submitted on X and on the community post here on Discord, YouTube. So make sure you're subscribed, because there is going to be another video, or maybe there already was another video depending on when these got uploaded. That is me answering the questions that you guys asked about the trip. So they started setting up all these ropes along the side of the building. It seemed like they were trying to be ready for there to be a lot of people. Last year at Cricket, it was not that organized. It was much, I mean, while they did let you line up early, it was just a line of people going forever. Like, it just kept, there wasn't any looping or anything to kind of condense it. It was not very well done in that sense, but Cricket also did a really good job in a lot of other ways last year, so I'm not complaining. One thing Wingstop did, actually, while we were waiting in line, they kept walking through with samples of little just pieces of like chicken wings or whatever, and different flavors of their sauces, so that was kind of cool. Cricket did not hand out samples of cell phones or text messages or anything, so +1 point to Wingstop. And just in case you're curious, as it did begin to approach closer to 11 a.m., the line, I should say, not really a line, it's the group of us that were there early and we knew we were that first group, started to kind of morph into a line, and we slowly kept inching over to where we knew the line was going to start. Because when we first walked over there, the Wingstop people said, no, you can't line up yet, don't go over there. But we kind of slowly inched our way over, and then they didn't really say anything. We just didn't want to basically lose our spot. It wasn't really like I want to be first, but it's more like if you were there 4 hours before it starts, it would really suck if you end up near the back of the line. But once 11 a.m. hit, they let everybody start filing through, and that's when they started doing the free samples and all that. Then finally noon hits, and for about 15 minutes after noon, I should say, some music hits, and out comes Bailey and Drew walking out looking all happy, and everybody popped. It was really fun. It was just exciting that they were there. I was near the front of the line, so I got to see them actually walk out of the store and get set up at their stand. Now, another minor advantage you get if you are there early for a meet and greet, and I don't mean like you're the first 100 people. When you are in the first 5 to 10 people, you get a little bit of leeway. You see, they usually want the line to move pretty quickly because there's an extremely long line, and they only usually have about 2 hours. It'll tell you on the website for the meet and greets of how long their window should be, but everyone I've seen so far, it's about 2 hours. So why do you have an advantage when you're the first 5 to 10? Well, the rules are a little bit looser. I don't know if they do this on purpose as a reward for those who had waited for that long, but in my experience, the first 5 to 10 kind of get away with stuff that is supposed to not be allowed, like asking for a signature on a personal item or having a bit of a conversation instead of just walking up, snapping a picture, saying hi, and leaving. That's right, you couldn't get things signed that you brought, but they were signing little posters. In fact, I happen to have those right here. So these were not pre-signed, so it was cool. As you walked up to them, they would sign each of these right in front of you. So every signature was a little bit different. They're definitely not printed signatures or anything like that. And I'm guessing they just make these depending on how they're going to bundle the wrestlers. But yeah, you walk up, and while they're signing something, you usually have a little bit of an opportunity to say something. Unfortunately, this is the first meet and greet where they are seated, so it's kind of awkward trying to get a picture with them. Every other one I've been to, they're standing, and If they have a title, they have the title over their shoulder, and you can kind of like, sometimes they'll let you hold it or something like that. This wasn't the case, and it's probably because they were signing these pictures. First one I met was Drew. I shook his hand. He was super nice. He's just so charming. He's got this pretty smile. He's a big dude too. First thing I said to him was, I want you to kick his ass tomorrow, talking about CM Punk. And Drew says something to the effect of, if he doesn't break a heel and he counts to 3, I will. So it was funny that they kind of slip in and out of character when you seem to prompt for it. Tally was actually wearing her Seth Rollins t-shirt, and she turned and said, hey, can you sign my Seth shirt? And Drew said something like, okay, but I don't want you to get, I gotta be quick. I don't want you to get kicked out. So she now has a Seth Rollins shirt signed by Drew McIntyre. Then I scooted over to Bayley, and I'm going to be totally honest with you. Bayley's one of my favorite wrestlers, and I ended up freaking out. I wasn't like screaming or anything, but as I knew that moment was coming, I was shaking a little bit. My voice was starting to shake a little bit. I was nervous. I feel like this is probably one of the first times I felt genuinely starstruck. Like I had no idea what I was going to say. And again, since we were there early, they were giving a little bit more leeway with letting you kind of talk to the wrestlers. And I had a full like minute-long conversation with Bayley, and it was one of the coolest things I did all week. That was one of the coolest moments of the entire week that we were there for me. Basically what I told her was I was really happy for her at the Rumble, and that I thought it was really cool that after she had come back to being a babyface and gone away from the damage control heel version of Bayley, I thought it was really cool that the fans welcomed her back so quickly. And it was almost like the fans were waiting for that Bayley again. And I specifically referenced the point where she is pointing up at the WrestleMania sign, and they get that shot of everybody and all the fans behind her pointing with her. And she said, like, yeah, I had no idea that the fans were even doing that. She said it was a really exciting moment, and that she keeps that picture. Like she loves that photo. She loves that moment. So to think that I had like a back and forth conversation that went on for almost a full minute, I feel like that was cool, and that was totally worth waiting an extra few hours. She even stood up a little bit in the picture instead of just her sitting there. Oh my God, I almost forgot. I almost forgot the coolest part about it. So I took that photo and I posted it on Twitter or X. And next thing I know, I'm going off, like we were going on the rest of our day. We were going to go to WrestleCon after that. And next thing I know, my phone is starting to blow up. I'm getting a lot of notifications. I'm getting a lot of likes and reposts on that photo. And usually that only happens if a bigger account sees it and reposts it for some reason. So I went through the repost to see what happened. Holy hell, Bayley saw the photo and reposted it. Boom. Proof, evidence. I screenshot it and I'm saving it forever. I may frame it. Maybe I'll have her sign it. But the photo of me and her at the meet and greet was at the top of her Twitter page for the rest of that day, pretty much. It was just so cool to think that she may have remembered that, because she only reposted me and like one other one, and it was from a different event. So it was the only one that I saw from that Wingstop meet and greet. So there's a little part of me that thinks, hey, maybe Bayley remembered that we had that conversation. Maybe there's a tiny part of her that was like, oh yeah, that guy was cool, and hit repost. I don't know. That was, I was flying. I was on cloud 9 for the rest of the day just from that. So after the meet and greet, we go back to the car and we just kind of sit there for a minute. I'm still starstruck. I'm like freaking out. I'm not ready to drive yet. And we start getting ready to head over to downtown Cleveland for WrestleCon. This is when the weather started to get a bit rainy. It wasn't too bad, but it was kind of annoying driving through an unfamiliar city in bad weather. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't have a ton to say about WrestleCon in this video. I kind of want to keep this video as positive as possible because it was a really positive experience, and I don't have a ton of positive things to say about the WrestleCon event itself. I might make another video on that and just kind of talking about the actual full in detail experience, but I feel like if I lay into that, it's not really going to fit the vibe of the rest of this video. But just know I did go to WrestleCon. I got to see some wrestlers that I had only ever just briefly heard of, or maybe I've seen them from the Patreon matches that you guys have been submitting for me. I don't have a ton to say beyond that in this video. After WrestleCon, we decided to head back to the hotel, get some food, and just kind of relax for the night. We did not end up going to SmackDown that night. We'd been up since 6 in the morning for the meet and greet, and we were even considering maybe going to the Sami Zayn comedy show after SmackDown, but I was so tired just from the drive the night before. I didn't sleep that well the night before after the drive, and then being up at 6 and doing the meet and greet out in the sun, and then the WrestleCon stuff. We didn't end up going to SmackDown or the Sami Zayn thing, but we did watch SmackDown from the hotel. And I guess I'm not too upset about that because we watched the SmackDown and nothing too crazy happened that I feel like I needed to be there for. I do kind of wish I would have just taken a nap and then gone to see the Sami show afterwards. I do kind of wish I would have done that, but that don't matter because the next day it's SummerSlam Saturday and we are so pumped. We decided that we were going to go to the second day of WrestleCon just in case it was a little bit better. Maybe the day of SummerSlam would be a little bit better. And I'll say it was a little bit better. I mean, that was when I got to meet Wheezy Blonde, a channel that I have watched for some time now as part of my getting into wrestling journey. Wheezy, super cool person. Love to have met her. She followed my fiance Tally on like Instagram and Twitch and all that. So that made her day. Wheezy, feel free to follow me on stuff too if you want. If not, it's cool. But the other thing that was cool that happened at WrestleCon was I got recognized in public for the first time. Shout out to you, David. I remember first time in my life, I'm just walking around and I see someone do a double take and just go, Deporticus? It was also the first time anybody referred themselves to me anyway as a fan of mine. From all my years of just doing like Twitch and YouTube and not really doing all of this stuff, I'm just used to seeing it as like a viewer or a follower. But to hear someone say that they're a fan of what I do, that was pretty damn cool. So thank you, David. Another one of you killer from the Discord and the Patreon, you saw me on the street and we stopped and talked for a moment, got recognized just walking down the street in Cleveland. That was cool. And Optilium met up with you inside the stadium at SummerSlam. So it was really cool meeting a few of you and being recognized in public was kind of surreal. Heck, even Wheezy Blonde knew who I was when I went to introduce myself. She's like, oh, I thought so. So just, I don't know. It's kind of cool. I don't know. It was cool. Now this year we did not collect a bunch of merch. Last year we had bought a bunch of t-shirts and hats and everything. And that's a lot of what you see behind me, but we did something a little bit different. We ended up buying a couple fairly unique things at WrestleCon. So what I ended up getting is I ended up getting this photo of Bailey, which I don't know, the style, the art style of it was really cool. I wanted it. It's signed. It's got the I put the signature. There it is. It is signed. It's got the certificate of authenticity on the back. I think this is really cool. I could probably put a little bit easier to see version of it up on the screen, but I really thought this would be kind of like a unique thing that's not just like a regular like Bailey merch shirt. Tally wanted something as well, and she picked out something that she absolutely loves, a signed photograph of actually it's not even just a photograph, it's kind of got that art style to it a little bit as well, of Roman Reigns beating Brock Lesnar at SummerSlam a couple of years ago. So not the one that we went to, but I mean, it looks so cool. It's signed by Roman Reigns, especially with everything that happened. I mean, I don't even know how you put a price on that. Kind of have something a little bit different than just the usual, the shirts and stuff. So after the second day of WrestleCon, we made our way over to, I think it was called the Winking Lizard Tavern. That's where we decided to have dinner downtown. It was really good. They said it was going to be a really long wait. It was going to be like 18 or 19 parties in front of us because a lot of people went that way to find something to eat, but it was good food. We didn't take too many risks. I didn't want to have any like stomach issues going into SummerSlam, but it was good food. Then we inched closer and closer to the actual event itself, and beginning that walk down toward the stadium was exciting. Just seeing so many people also loving the thing that you love, wearing different merch that you recognize, and just sort of slowly making their way to the outside of the stadium. It was exciting. It wasn't really something I got with the Ford Field, the Detroit SummerSlam, because again, I just kind of went to the event. I didn't think to get there early and check out things or in and around it. This is also when the weather started to get pretty hot again. The clouds were gone and it was getting really, really hot as everybody was making their way just to walk around and stand around the stadium. There was a few spots with shade, some trees. A lot of people were camped out under the trees just trying to stay in the shade. I even tried to go to the pre-show thing where they had like Big E and Pat McAfee and all them sitting at a stage and all the fans are behind them. I did not have the greatest view. It was pretty crowded. The big pillar was my view, but as I was walking to and from it, I could kind of see it from the side as well. It was cool. So finally the doors open. It's about 4:30, 5 o'clock, and we make our way in line. We're slowly moving in, and it's my first time going into a stadium where I am completely unfamiliar with where to go, how to find my seat, or anything. I just didn't know the layout. We got a little bit lost to the point where I was doing a ton of walking up these slopes all the way up. I didn't know there was an escalator. Needless to say, I got my steps in for the day because I was going up and down these damn ramps trying to get to whatever level I needed to go to. At least the view was kind of nice, but yeah, I wish I had known that there were escalators just to take you to the level you need to be in. We probably got seated about an hour before they actually said everything was going to start. They tell you that it's going to start at about 6:30. I think that's to get you in your seats for the actual show, which is really starting at 7. We were very fortunate. We were on the side of the stadium where the sun was setting like behind us. So we were in the shadow. If we'd been on the other side for another couple hours, whoever was sitting on that side would have had the sun beating down on them for quite some time. And from where our seats were, it was a great view. I know it doesn't really do it as much justice in the photos, especially when I take a photo in a stadium. I usually do the thing where it kind of zooms out and you get more width in the photo. I had people ask, like, what's the point of even going to the show if you can't see anything? Well, first of all, even if you can't see anything, the atmosphere at a show like this is unmatched by anything I've ever been to in my entire life. So it's worth that for the price alone. Just being there and being in the building for the stuff that happened that night was totally worth it. But I could see fine. I mean, you can see what's going on in the ring. You're not seeing the finer details, but anything you can't see the finer details of, especially for this bigger outdoor venue, they have these pillars up that are holding up these screens, and I can see the same thing you see when you're watching it on TV. The only thing I'm not seeing are the replays, at least not as they're happening. So yeah, being there, I don't feel like I missed anything. I was seeing everything just fine. If anything, I was seeing things that people at home weren't seeing. So the show finally kicks off. I'm going to be completely honest. I don't know Jelly Roll's music. I've heard of him mostly through WWE stuff, but that's about it. So the performance there didn't do a ton for me, but I saw a lot of people get excited about it. So good for those people. They kicked off the show. I already did the whole review of the actual show. You should check out that video if you haven't seen it yet, but kicking off with Rhea Ripley and Liv Morgan, that whole story was such a fun way to start the show, especially for those who were watching in person, because it really set the tone. And I could tell early that this was going to be a W crowd. This was going to be a fun environment to watch this in, because especially with the kiss happening at the end of the Rhea and Liv match, Dom kissing Liv, the place popped like crazy. And it let me know right then and there, I could already tell this is going to be a stronger crowd than when I went to the Ford Field SummerSlam. I should mention that one of the best parts about the view that we had was that we were right above the entrance, where we could see the entire entryway, including the area where the Trons are, where they first walk in. So being on the side that we were on and being at the angle we were at, it was super convenient to see everything that was happening in the show. Being there for all of the sing-alongs, like Seth coming out and just anything where you would sing along, CM Punk's was awesome. In fact, I'll put up the video that I took just to kind of give you the feeling of what it was like to be there the moment the music hit. I don't know how much of that I can put in this video without it getting striked or something, but yeah, being there, singing along to that for the first time was so exciting. But the main event, Cody Rhodes versus Solo Sikoa, was one of the that was a segment. I don't even know how long the whole thing was, but however long that was a period I'm never going to forget in my life. And you just knew something meaningful was happening with the way they did Cody's entrance, the way he came all the way from the trailer, walked up with his dog, with the way when he wore the skull mask. God, it built it up so well, and just you could just feel that I was feeling the emotions, and I felt like I was holding back tears, like I'm thinking like, oh my God, it might happen tonight. I know Tally was struggling the entire time. Anytime I know I'm holding back tears, I look over and she's already long gone, already tearing up. And it got to the point where while we were watching the main event, I was getting so worried, I was getting emotional. And it wasn't even really for me. I knew how important it would be if Roman Reigns showed up and Tally was here to see it. She is a huge Roman Reigns fan. And I found myself just mentally just praying and hoping, like, please let his music hit. That would just mean the absolute world to her. And of course it would mean a lot to me and everyone else there, but I wanted it. I wanted that moment for her so bad. And man, when the music hit, I lost it. And I just, it all came together of just being So happy that I am there witnessing it. So happy that she was there witnessing it, seeing her freaking out and shaking, trying to record the moment. It was so impactful, and it was exactly why I watch this. It's exactly why I love this so much. I don't need every wrestler to be this top tier technician and super talented in the ring. The storytelling is what had me bottling up that whole time leading up to that moment, to this release of joy. And it's all for stuff that I didn't know existed 2 years ago. The trip was worth it. The whole thing, like, yeah, it was worth it before that, but there was just this moment of we were here for this. This is a historic moment, and we're gonna go back and watch this highlight for years to come. I'm gonna remember this when I'm old. Anyway, we were one of the last people to leave our section afterwards. We watched Roman walk all the way out. I think that was after the show went off air. We got to watch him leave slowly and just kind of take in the crowd. Oh, being part of the ooh, ah, before the spear. I'll play you the clip. You can hear me yelling, and you can hear Talia. Just play the clip. I can't even tell you how cool that was. It was just, I just know I won't forget that. And it was some of the most fun I've ever had, ever. And me and Tally discovered all of this together, and we got to get invested in this together, and we got to enjoy that moment together. And like I said, we were one of the last people to leave the section, to the point where they're about to ask us to get moving. And we just sat there and we just digested this moment, and we thought about it, and we just kept talking about what we had just seen, and we took a picture, and yeah, we would just finish crying our eyes out. And that was just, it was magical. That trip alone and everything that happened, it reignited this inspiration in me that I want to do more of this. I want to put myself in a situation where what I do with this when I get home enables me to continue to go to these events. I really want to go to the Royal Rumble in Indianapolis. That's within driving distance with us. So those of you who watch this video, and especially those of you who are still watching the video all the way through here, thank you. Like, we would not have been able to go to this without you guys. I don't think we would have been able to scrounge together the funds that it takes to kind of go on a trip like this and be able to make this. The generosity, the support, it's a lot. And I thank you for it. Because of you, I got to see my fiance have that moment that I know she was talking about. What if he's in town? Oh my God, what if he's here tonight? What if he's going to be there Saturday? The whole weeks leading up to it, and she got it. And man, I won't ever forget it. Thank you. The next day we drove home just in one of the best moods you can imagine. We talked about it the whole ride home. Even Max looked happy on the drive home, maybe just because he felt that we were happy. But yeah, I want to do a lot more of this, and I can't wait to spend however long trying to chase that feeling again that we had at SummerSlam. Genuinely, from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for all of the support. Those of you who are on the Patreon, in the Discord, on Twitch, wherever you participate in this community that we're building together, thank you so much. Thank you so much to the patrons that are flying up the screen. I can't wait to see you guys in the next one. See you later.